to the Monday Motivation Spotlight, another episode bringing an inspiring and fabulous Israeli making a difference in Israel. I'm Lesley Kaplan, bringing you this every week since October 7th, when we all know what happened and we needed motivation to keep us going. Today, who is our amazing guest? It's the lovely Nina Tokayer, who many of you know from the fabulous Israeli musical duo with her husband Yoni, known as Yonina. Yes, a combination of their two names, Yoni and Nina. They are acclaimed for their weekly home videos, which have reached millions of viewers worldwide. They have also released 2 original albums and have been performing for the past 10 years throughout Israel and abroad. So, how did they meet? That you'll have to hear later in the podcast. But Yoni and Nina have been singing since they met and have been married for the last 11 years. They have 5 lovely children who every now and then also make a guest appearance in their videos. Yonina is known for their uplifting music, their soft harmonies, and their blend of Jewish, Israelis, and intentional music. Since October 7th, Yoni has served more than 400 days in the reserves in Miluim, and Nina, who's been with the children, has used that time, besides caring for the family, to also get involved in her music, and she's been inspired by these challenging times and writing different songs. So join us with the lovely Nina Tokayer, and let's hear their story. Nina, I'm so happy to have you here. I keep on wanting to call you Yonina because Nina is part of the Yonina, as we mentioned before, and Yonina is a lovely female name too. So you're well known to so many. Your video clips have had millions of views. You've entertained so many people. I love your music. And not so long ago, I ended up meeting you in person at an event. And I said, I must have you on the podcast because I've been inspired by your and Yoni's music, i.e. Yonina's music, for so long. So welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Lesley. Thank you for having me here.
So let's just go back and talk about Yonina or Nina. Don't worry if I land up calling you Yonina from time to time.
I'm used to it. It happens.
I know, I'm sure you are used to seeing it is such a popular name. It was 2 names blended together, but it is a well-known name on its own. So let's talk about Nina growing up as a child. I understand that you did not make Aliyah, as many of our previous guests have done, that your family made Aliyah many years ago from the US. And your siblings made Aliyah with them, but you were born here. You are the first Sabra in the family to be born here, correct?
Yes, exactly. I always say my parents making Aliyah was the best gift they could have given me, and something I'm so grateful for. And I grew up very much speaking, my native language is Hebrew.
And it's a part of your identity also with your music, where you sing in both English and Hebrew.
For sure. And also in terms of the audiences, sometimes we go abroad and we perform for the Jewish communities there or perform for tourists when they're here. The gam v'gam is very much a part of me.
So let's talk about Nina as a child. Did you always have this flair for music? If somebody had said to you, do you even remember if somebody had said to you, Nina, what do you want to do when you grow up? What was your answer?
For sure. I had different phases, but music was always a huge part of my identity. I remember when I was 10, for my birthday, I wanted a guitar or a speaker that I could hear songs on and record myself. My parents ended up getting me both. And I would just spend hours in the room making up songs and recording them on this tape recorder. And playing guitar is always a very big part of who I am and my identity. I had other dreams as well up there in the list. I thought of being a prime minister, a rabbi, all sorts of other aspirations.
Cool. Nina's the prime minister, Nina's a rabbi. That could be quite interesting. You say, so you had this flair for music from a very young age. Were you the only one in your family that had this flair and this not only passion and flair, but that was so talented in music?
Music is part of our family in the sense that there was a lot of music around the house all the time. My parents both love listening to music. My mom's a poet, so that was a big part, I think, a big influence. She'd always, whenever anything would happen, I'd be emotional if my brothers made me cry or if I was upset about a friend or anything. She'd always direct me she'd say, it's okay, write a song about it. And really pushed me to use my creativity.
Wow, that is so cool. Not every average parent tells a kid to write a song when they're feeling down or they want to express or feeling happy or expressing their emotions in any way. So I've no doubt that having your mom as a writer poet, the creative side, definitely that's a blessing.
For sure. And it's with me till today. A lot of our songs in the end were born from these very powerful emotions, whether they're the positive emotions or difficult or challenges or anything, these moments where I feel overwhelmed with emotion and then I feel like I have to write a song. So that's definitely something that's stuck with me.
That's actually a fantastic outlet to have because then you've got things on your mind. Do you find that your mind is just always churning? And a lot of women are like that, that we're just not able to switch off. Do you find with you that it's thinking about new ideas, new songs, new words, new themes?
It really depends. There's different seasons. Sometimes there's times in my life where I write a lot, and there's times in my life where I'm just overwhelmed with other things and I don't write as much. My mom's very good at being consistent. She'll sit down and write every day, and I'm more, I think it really depends. Sometimes the inspiration will come and or there'll be just some strong emotion, and there's also times of emptiness, and then I move between them. But it is an incredible form of therapy. It's self-therapy for sure.
I'm sure, absolutely. So, does your mom help you write some of your songs if she's a poet?
No, we have very different styles. We don't get involved in each other's creativity, but sometimes we'll share what we're working on with each other.
Amazing. So I always wonder, and I think different musicians do things differently. Sometimes I hear people actually having the words first and then the actual nigun, then everything else, the music. And other times it's the music and the actual tune first and then the words develop. What generally works for you, or do you have a bit of both?
It's a bit of both. Often it'll come simultaneously. Sometimes the words will come one step before the tune, but usually they flow together.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us all about the different instruments you play, and then I want to go back to how it all started and you meeting Yoni. But who plays what? I've seen it, but for our viewers that may not be familiar with you, who plays what? You both sing.
So Yoni and I both sing. I play mostly guitar, and Yoni is more a multi-instrumental kind of guy. He can play guitar, piano, he pulls out a flute, he plays his first instrument was violin, percussion, basically anything he picks up. He's talented at playing. And I'm mostly guitar and a bit of percussion. It's funny. A lot of people don't know this, but actually at my bat mitzvah, I wanted to sing, but it was also very complicated in terms of kolisha, even though I was just 12, but we had a lot of very religious family members who
Like
were
men
there.
that would listen to a
I wanted
woman.
to respect everyone. I ended up doing a darbuka performance. At the time I was studying darbuka. So I did a darbuka performance with my teacher rather than singing. And now I'm making up for the singing part.
Yeah, amazing. Was it always when you were a kid, did you feel it was more the musical side and then the singing, or was it always the singing first?
I think it's the singing. The singing is really the singer-songwriter in me was always the main part. And the music is like I learned guitar so I could accompany myself, which is why I don't consider myself an incredible musician. It's more, I see it as a tool to express myself in
Express your voice. Interesting,
songs.
because as a kid, I learned guitar and I love singing, but I learned guitar because of the singing too, right? So my passion was the singing and the guitar was a tool. I haven't picked up one for many years, and I'm definitely not as talented as a Nina. I walk around the house humming and singing half the time. Do you do the same? I'm curious to know.
Sure. Definitely. Yeah. Music it's always there in the background. And it's cool to see it also with our kids, how it's also a big part of who they are. I remember as a kid, I was singing to myself in the street and walking home and then oblivious of who's around me, if people hear, if they don't
Cool. So
hear.
let's go back to you advancing as a teenager, young adult. You by then had you decided you wanted to make music your career, or it was really when you met Yoni?
So I was always very torn about it because I had this dream of sharing my music with the world, with other people, also with the wider audience, not just within the realm of the Jewish community or Dati women community. I had this dream of sharing it with the world, but I was very torn as a religious woman who wants to respect halacha. What do I do with this? So my teenage years, I didn't sing publicly in front of mixed audiences. I struggled a lot with it, and I would have conversations with my rabbis and learn different opinions and everything. But in the end, I didn't sing in front of mixed audiences. I searched out and found a lot of any platform I could that was women's only. If it was open mic nights for women in Jerusalem that were organize and I would join. In my school, I was very involved every chance I could. Basically, we had a yearly competition between the different grades of singing and dancing. I was very involved with that, and in my youth movement and Ezra, anywhere I could, basically within those boundaries, with maybe the exception of going to the hospital with a group of teenagers where we would sing all together as a group every Friday or Motzei Shabbat for a walk between the different parts of the hospital and sing there for the kids. And that was a very powerful experience also as a teenager, just seeing how much joy music can give other people. And that was really formative. But also there, it wasn't a solo performance of mine. We were as a group, and it was for the sake of bringing joy to people. And then I continued to struggle with that and continued to write at the same time. I wrote songs. I started recording my music. For my 13th birthday, my parents took me and my friends and we recorded a song that I wrote. It was actually my guitar teacher had a studio. So we went to his studio and we recorded it all together. And it was really fun. It came out messy because there were like 6 of us. And at the end of the session, he said, Nina, how about you come back next week and record it just you? And I said, no, I don't want to insult my friends and everything. I ended up going and recording it. And that was back when people were just starting to have MP3s, stuff like that. That was like the new rage. And I remember how shocked I was when the song that I recorded suddenly ended up on a friend's MP3 player and then another friend. And then it was this feeling, it was very minimalistic, but it was like this feeling, oh, wow, my song is getting out there. Yeah, it was very limited, but that was my first experience of that. That was back when I was 13. Then towards the end of high school, I returned. I started searching again. I found a different studio and I started recording my songs. And that's more or less the stage I was at when I met Yoni during my second year of Shirut Leumi. I was 20 at the time. I had a few songs that I'd recorded, and I was still very much questioning where was I going to take this, and how would I manage to bridge between my love for Torah and my love for music.
That's so interesting. And also there's this whole concept, or I don't know if we want to call it a myth or whatever we want to call it, where a good Jewish boy or girl doesn't go into music or acting or singing. They study law, they're accountants, they're doctors, whatever. So were your parents supportive of you going into music no matter what, because they saw that you were passionate? Or at any stage did they try to direct you into something more formal, let's say, more formal education?
My parents are incredibly supportive. My dad is an entrepreneur, and he always used to say, I'd say, what will I do when I get older? You'll be great at whatever you do. Just so much support and encouragement, which I'm really grateful for. And also from a halachic standpoint, my parents are Baalei Tshuva, and they found their own way to Judaism in a very open environment and gradual pace. So there was never any judgment or expectations on that sense. For them, it was not an issue at all. It was more me with the school I went to and the rabbis that I tried to follow, that I was limiting myself at that point. It wasn't anything that had to do with my parents. And my dad did always say, he thinks I can go into business and I'll be a great businesswoman.
And I think that's so important what you said. And I love what you said earlier about that your father said you'll be great at anything you do. And I think that's such an important message for us to give to our children. And yes, to identify the passions that our kids do have and the talents that our kids have, even if it's not exactly what we maybe had in mind for them, because we bring up our children we on the one hand want them to be similar to ourselves, to the paths that we lead, but on the other hand, we want to give them the free rein to grow up to be independent human beings and to follow their passion and to follow their strength. So I love what you just said. Were you at school in Jerusalem, or where were you at school?
Yeah, I went to school in Jerusalem. I went to Chorev, a great school, very by the book.
Very in the box, and you're not in the box at all, it seems, right?
No, it's funny because when Yoni and I started singing together, I told him, Yoni, they'll never accept my daughters in Chorev. But in the end, they invited me several times to come and sing for the girls. And I have a very good relationship with the school. Even a lot of people, if people know the Jerusalem school, where people assume I went to Pelech, which is a little more.
Right, that's why I was asking whether it was Pelech or maybe one of the great schools outside Jerusalem.
No, so I went to Chorev and I had great experiences there, and I ended up making my own path.
Right, which is the best way, of course. So let's talk about, you said you met Yoni when you were in your Shirut Leumi years. What were you doing in Shirut Leumi? How did you actually meet? And was it through music that actually bonded you? From the first conversation, did you both know that the other was passionate about music?
Yeah, so definitely. So I met Yoni during my second year of Shirt Leumi. I was at Livnot Banot in Sfat, which is an incredible organization. I was working with groups coming from abroad, a post-birthright experience to allow people to connect to their Judaism, their Jewish identity, and the land. And it was an incredible place. And we met there during a Shabbat in Sfat. Yoni took a group, he was with a group of Australian high school students that he was guiding. Yoni's a tour guide and an educator. And he took them to see the view from the balcony in which I was of Livnot, where I was living.
I
And
know that balcony, the balcony on the rooftop on the top, yes,
yeah, it's
with
an
the
incredible
amazing view.
view. And
Kudos here to people I'm also super passionate about. I don't know them as well as you do, but I've also been to Livnot, the place. I've been to Erin and Miriam's home, and they were former guests on the Monday Motivation Spotlight. So when you're telling the story, I can actually picture it because I know exactly what that balcony is.
Yeah, they're incredible, and the work that they've done shaped so many people's lives. Mamash. And I'm really grateful to have been there. So that's where we met. We had a very short conversation, and then a few months later, Yoni found me on Facebook and followed up and said, you really left an impression on me. I'd love to get to know you. And it was very, very sweet and an honest message. And I said, great. I mean, I don't really know anything about you, but tell me about yourself, and let's see if it's bichal shayach, if it could be relevant. He started telling me about himself, and everything just like lined up. And he mentioned, that he's a musician and he's a tour guide, and he did shlichut and all sorts of things that I very quickly, it just felt like it was very much meant to be, with a lot of siyata dishmaya, thank God. And already the night before our first date, we spoke on the phone, and he told me that he was working on recording his own music. He was working on a solo album at the time. And I said, cool, I've also recorded songs. And then at that point, I asked him, I said, I'd love to hear one of your songs. And he got a little nervous. It felt like a little bit like a blind audition, like the voice. And he said, okay, but only if you send me one of your songs. So we found ourselves the night before our first date listening to each other's music. And I heard his song, and it was beautiful.
And you fell in love with him before even meeting him in person the next
My
time, right?
friend said, you just listen to it once. And my friend was over. I said, I'm going out with this guy tomorrow. And he just sent me a song of his. Let's listen to it. We listened to it together. And she said, okay, but don't listen to it again, or you're not going to be objective for the date tomorrow. And I said, okay. And I drove her home, and then I went back home and I listened to it again and again. And
fantastic. This was a song that he had written himself as well, or not? Yeah, he had written it.
And the song that I sent him was called Mamtinim. Those both ended up making it into our first album.
Wow, that is so special. When you hear the story about it, most people would listen to it. And do you tell that story also when you're doing shows, like what you've said now?
Yeah, we tell behind the scenes of the music.
Right. That's at the end of the day, it's the music, it's the personalities, and it's all about the stories and the people behind it. So you didn't actually hear each other play. It was on a Shabbat that you had met, right? Was it Shabbat that you were on that balcony, or did you hear each other play?
Very, very short, like minimalistic conversation. But I guess it left a spark. And then as soon as we started going out, it was very clear very quickly.
Cool. So when did you start? I'm not talking about playing professionally together, but even while you were dating, did you have a few music jabs together, like a music date together?
There's a very funny story that we share often in our concerts. It's a long story, but basically on our second date, we were on the way to Mayan, and we wanted to sit there and drink a little tea. And Yoni was driving. It was my mom's car. The car got stuck in the mud. And then I suggested we push it out of the mud, and we sang the wagon nigun, which is this story. It's a Hasidic nigun that tells a story of Hasidim that their wagon gets stuck in the mud and they're pushing it. They're going, oh, yeah, yeah. So we found ourselves in the middle of the night pushing our wagon out of the mud while singing the nigun together.
Oh, that is so, I love it. That is so cool. And like, instead of panicking about the situation, you turned it into this musical opportunity or this musical time.
Yeah, it was a very powerful and funny moment, which we often go back to. And actually and then just music was always there between us. When we got engaged, the way we decided to tell our friends and post about it on Facebook was by making a video together. Actually, that was like our first video together of just like a mashup of different wedding songs. We posted that of us singing that together, and everyone obviously understood what that meant. And at the time, Yoni was making weekly videos with his friend, who's a very talented musician, Gilad Brownstein. And they were making these like weekly nigun before Shabbat videos. After we got married, I joined, we did a few videos together, the three of us. And then it kind of died out after we were living in Tel Aviv and he was in Jerusalem, and it was a little hard to keep it up. And a few months later, Yoni said, let's get back to that. Maybe we'll make music together, because we were thinking a lot about what I would do with my songs and what Yoni would do with his songs. And he said, I think that the two of us together could be much stronger and more powerful than us just doing music separately. And at the time, we were very close with Rav Ronen Neubert, Zichrono Livracha, who is the rabbi of Oilari in Ra'anana, living in Tel Aviv. And he was also moving to Tel Aviv to work with Jewish education there. And we were very close at the time. And he had just come out with a psak that was really revolutionary for us, talking about how nowadays women singing in Kol Isha is more a question of how it's done than a blanket ban. And it's a question of the context. And if it's done in a modest way, then it's considered okay. Nowadays, because we're more accustomed to it and it's considered davar haragil bo, it's a whole halachic discussion. I won't dive deeply into it. But for me, that was mamash like hearing the right thing at the right time, just as we were debating about whether or not to start making music together. And it really felt mishamayim. And it gave me the peace of mind knowing that yesh al mi lismoch, as they say in Hebrew, there are opinions like that in halacha that I can trust and that resonate with me and that feel right for me. And in the end, I think every person needs to go according to their rav and to their derech. And obviously we wouldn't want to force ourselves upon anyone who doesn't feel comfortable hearing women singing. But for us, it mamash felt like a message that had come just at the right time from a rabbi that we have a lot of respect for. And with that, we opened our Facebook page, YouTube, later on Instagram, and we started posting these weekly videos from our living room. First, it was
that was the moment that Yonina was born, basically. You tell us about the name. It's obviously how you came up with the name, Yoni and Nina. So but that was the moment that Yonina was born, or you opened a Facebook page before the actual name Yonina was
Yonina was our couple nickname from the start. It was very obvious. It was the joke at the wedding. There were t-shirts, Yonina. It was like always there. Very quickly, we realized that our names blend well together. And then when we wanted to officially start making music together, it was a no-brainer. It was like, oh, of course.
Absolutely. Like the name was already around. People do it.
For sure. Our families call us that as a nickname. Oh, are you Nina coming for Shabbat? It was there anyhow.
I love that. So in terms of the music, so you performed together, which is great. It was basically an evolution that you moved, as you explained, from performing for women only or for women only to performing together to male and or female audiences. So do both of you only perform together, or do sometimes either of you perform you just for women or him sometimes on his own, or it's like the two of us or leave it kind of thing?
No, we do all sorts, and I like that. It keeps things interesting and diverse. Sometimes I'll do women's evenings or musical hallels or intimate women's gatherings. And sometimes if there's an issue of Kol Isha, Yoni will also perform on his own if it's a tish or a concert or any kind of event, or a chazan. He does chazanut sometimes in shul. So we do sometimes do things separately. I'd say most of the time we perform together. Also student energy, I think, for women-only events, which I also appreciate.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's where I met you, at a women's only event. Yes, you weren't performing there, but that's where I met you. There's definitely this energy about all women's events. We love our men, but there's definitely this separate energy. So tell us about the type of music, the different types of music you go for, and who are your biggest followers, target audiences that you aim at?
So our music, it's a little hard to define because I think we both really enjoy creating these bridges. So it's a mix of both songs in Hebrew and in English, both our original music and our covers. We have original songs, I'd say mostly in Hebrew, but also some in English. And it's so much a blend between Jewish music, Israeli music, international music, definitely with an acoustic kind of atmosphere to it. Though it can be chilled, it can also be like uplifting and higher energy. A lot of harmonies in terms of style. It's hard to say. It's something between country, folk, pop, rock, acoustic.
An overlap. And I agree. I've listened to and I enjoy listening to your music. And you're right, there is that diversity. Who would you say is the average age that you aim at when you perform? or do you literally adapt yourself to different audiences?
We adapt, and it's always very fun to see who ends up being in the audience because it's such a mixed bag. And I love that. A lot of times it's our concerts are family friendly. So you'll see anyone from older crowd to younger parents with their kids, with a baby, and it's so much multi-generational. And also in terms of the audience, we never know. Will it be more secular, more religious, a mix? Should we be speaking in Hebrew? Should we be speaking in English? A lot of times in our concerts, we'll end up, some events are predetermined if they're private events, and then we know we adapt ourselves in the set list to the event. And if we do a more open ticket-based concert, then often we'll start off the concert just asking the crowd some questions to get a better idea. We'll say, who here speaks English? Who here speaks Hebrew? Raise your hand if you've been to our concert before, if you haven't. And based on that, a lot of times we'll adapt the set list as we go, just to make sure that it's, because there's so many different options, to try and really gear it towards whoever's there.
It's fabulous that you can adapt yourself like that as well. And I think that's such a strength to have. So you mentioned about kids now, and let's just talk about your children. Sometimes they've appeared in your videos. Let's just talk about them involved in your music, their passion for music. Do your kids attend music game? Do you teach them?
So yeah, our kids are super musical. Baruch Hashem, we have 5 kids. Our oldest is 10. Our youngest is 4 months old. We found that it's easier to outsource in terms of chugim, just because it creates more of a structure and a sense of commitment versus us teaching them. And we'll sing together and we'll jam together sometimes, but in terms of like more official learning. So yeah, so they have a lot of chugim. Our oldest is now learning piano and she's in the choir. She plays flute and ukulele. And our son, who's 7, is an incredibly talented drummer and percussionist. From when he was 2, he was like banging on the table, on the walls. Sometimes it drives us crazy, but it's a huge talent.
Right, and I'm sure you encourage it too. This driving crazy because of the noise, but encouraging the passion.
Like when he was 4 and it was bedtime and he was drumming on the wall and the neighbors were calling, that was, that drove us crazy. But he's also incredibly talented. So he does drums and also piano. And yeah, I think it's always a fine balance, because from when they were little, they were like guest appearances in our videos. We always try and it's a constant question, how much to put them in the spotlight and how much to leave them out of the story, and we don't want to put pressure on them. And I think it's healthy for them to grow up with a certain separateness from our business, but as they grow, they also want to be more involved. And then it's always a question as parents, how much do we do that? So in a lot of our tours in the States, when they were with us, coming with us along for the ride, so during the day concerts, like if it's a Sunday kind of family oriented concert, and they would come with us together with the babysitter, and then we would invite them on stage to sing one song, for instance, where it felt like,
awesome. I love that.
We gave them like a place to shine and they enjoyed it and it was special for them, but they also didn't have the pressure of needing to. At this point, our son is, but that drummer that's on stage with you the whole time, I want to switch him.
That is so cool. And like, let's wait, how many years? 10 years ahead or something, maybe even less. And they're going to be famous too. Wasn't it quite funny?
They'll go on their own way, and Bezrat Hashem, they'll do what's right for them. But yeah, we're constantly adjusting it as we go along, and as they get older, trying to find the right balance between giving them a spot to shine, but not putting pressure on them. And yeah,
absolutely. And do you find out of the kids that one would sometimes wants to be on the stage and part of it more than the other, or it's pretty much a mutual thing, or it depends on their mood of the day?
I think they all like being involved and like being part of the story, but they all have their own talents and they all have shine in different ways. So for sure, that's all.
I think that's wonderful that you give them the spotlight and the option of taking part. On the other hand, without the pressure that they can make their own journey and decide their own fate. Not that, oh, we're going to absolutely 100% follow in our parents' footsteps, although the chances are that they will be, whether it's a profession or whether it's just a passion and a hobby, I guess time will tell. So we are coming towards the end of our podcast now. We could definitely continue talking for longer. In terms of your vision, you, Nina, as an individual, and Yonina as a duo with your dear husband, Yoni. So share with us what your vision is for the future, ways that you plan on moving into personal as well as professional.
So I think we love making music together, and we aspire to continue to do that both in Israel and in Jewish communities internationally. We do concerts. We also lead musical tours together because Yoni's a tour guide. So we combine those two. We just started toying with the idea of also offering retreats, whether it's like a Shabbat getaway or different kinds of retreats. That's something fun that we're starting to dream of and trying to do together. And I think in terms of my vision, it's to be able to continue to balance our family, which right now with a young baby at home, our youngest is 4 months old, all 5 of them, I feel like that's a big part of my identity and of my energy at the moment. And to be able to continue to invest both in that and in the music, to create more music and to constantly be in this place of renewal, and to be able to balance the two at every stage, find the right balance and see where to invest more. But Bezat Hashem, that would be the dream.
Wow, sounds fabulous. And yes, definitely the balance. You've still got a very young family. In fact, when we met personally, you brought your beautiful baby with you. So it's great that you were able to do that, that you didn't say, do I go and find a place to leave the baby or I don't go? But you decided to get the best of both worlds. You had the baby with you and you had fun at the event.
Definitely.
So, Nina, as we come to the end of this podcast, and I've had a great time talking to you, can we inspire our viewers with something short and musical, which I'm sure they'd be delighted to receive?
So sure, I'll share a song that we're working on nowadays. It's a song I wrote years ago as a teenager, but we're finally now recording it in our studio and hoping to release it over the next few months. So I'd be happy to share it with you. It's a very personal song, very close to my heart. It's called Beautifully Breakable, and it's about how often we feel the need to cover up our vulnerability and to pretend that everything's fine with us. But really, when we embrace the parts of ourselves that are broken and we realize that everybody has what they're struggling with, then that's when we really can love ourselves and to connect with other people and see the beauty within us. So it's called Beautifully Breakable, and I'll share it with you. I need to cover up my scars. I won't sew these cracks together. I'm perfectly fine not being fine. I don't mind. I ain't gonna hide the way I feel. I won't burn these tears in silence, 'cause I'm not ashamed of being afraid, and at times I fall to my feet, 'cause we all get loose at the seams, and I am beautifully breakable. I won't pretend that I'm made out of steel. I'm vulnerable and insecure, and I bleed 'cause I'm flawed and incomplete, and I am beautiful indeed. I don't need to try to cover up. Let the world see my heart bleed. Why are we trying so hard to pretend we're okay? And who are we fooling anyway? 'Cause I am beautifully breakable. I won't pretend that I'm made out of steel. I'm vulnerable and insecure, and I bleed 'cause I'm flawed and incomplete, and I am beautiful indeed.
Bravo. That was lovely. Thank you, Nina. I love this calmness about you, this tranquility, not just with your music, but also the way you speak And this is also so special that this was written so many years ago when you were a teen, and that now you're bringing it out and doing something special about it. Anything you want to just add about that, about the song, bringing it out now? Why choosing to bring it out publicly at this moment?
It's a good question. I think because there's a whole group of songs that we're working on now, all songs that I've written by myself. Songs are very personal and in English. I think that I was always wondering when would be the right time to share them and in what context and how they would come across in terms of the audience. And it never really felt like the right time, but they're so dear and close to me that at a certain point I said, I think these songs are going to reach the right ears, Bezat Hashem, and the people that need to hear them are going to hear them. And now it just felt the right time.
That the time is right. And it's interesting, going back to how we started, that English is such an important part of your life, even though you grew up here, yes, in an English speaking family, but you grew up here essentially in an Israeli and Hebrew environment, yet you were actually writing songs in English, which is incredible.
Thank you.
Nina, thank you so much, as I said, for being a guest on our podcast today. I've had a wonderful time hosting you, and I've no doubt our viewers will love it as well. Wishing you and Yoni, wishing Yonina continued success, and I've no doubt our paths will cross again in the future. I'm Lesley Kaplan. Thank you to our viewers for listening to another episode of the Monday Motivation Spotlight. Thank you to our sponsors, to Eggert & Cohen Insurance in Jerusalem and Lali's Flower Boutique. And we will see you next week on another edition of the Monday Motivation Spotlight. Bye-bye.
Bye, Lesley. Thank you.